Yeah, but AI was not the most interesting thing on Google I/O. For me, the most important part was talk about new news and improvements of Flutter.
Think for me.
So yeah, then let's discuss this. Let's do it.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to Why Would We Know? I'm your host Rajat.
And I will tell us. So yeah, so Google I/O. What happened on the Flutter front? So what was shown there?
I would say a lot happened, and I'm excited to just get into it. Let's do it.
Great. Since Flutter is one of at least my favorite framework for multi-platform software development, so I
hmm
really enjoy Flutter as a framework.
hmm
So yeah, and they introduced a new version. I've already installed it locally on my machine, I guess,
hmm
but I'm not so sure. I guess I still have Flutter 319. But yeah, anyway. So what's new in Flutter?
All right. I mean, since what we saw in the entire Google I/O, it was all about AI, and they had to do something with Flutter as well that somehow incorporate or integrates AI within Flutter. So that's what they did, and they came up with a lot of AI features built into Flutter SDK. So now I would say the first thing that they did is, I don't know if you know about this, but they launched something called Project IDX. It's a web based
IDX. Okay.
Yeah, Project IDX. It's a web based IDE. Okay, that
Oh yeah,
helps
yeah.
you
I saw
start
that, and
project.
I tried it. I no, I have created a task for myself to try it out. Yes. Yeah. I have seen that. Yes. Was
Mhm.
it also announced on Google I/O?
Yes, I mean the thing is, Project IDX has been was announced a while back, but it was not live. But they made it live on this Google I/O.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
before that, they were just joining people in the waiting list and all that. So I also joined, I think 6 months or 1 year ago or something. But now I can finally access the Project IDX. So basically, helps you kickstart your projects on the web or cloud.
Mhm.
So you can do, I mean, all Google related technologies, Flutter, Angular, and all that. Then you can do your backend Rust and Go, Python, and all that as well. So which I think is something you can try because you play around with Rust quite a lot these days. So I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
it would be nice
So it's basically an IDE in the web
in the
with the
web. Correct.
complete workspace, everything
Correct.
centrally stored on Google
Yes.
servers, and complete with the whole build cycle and life cycle of a
True.
software. Is there even a deployment option so you can say, okay, I develop my product and then I deploy it somewhere?
hmm
And then have my DevOps basically, so I can
hmm
from basically from source code to customer in one line. Is that possible with IDX?
Yeah, so you can deploy on the Google Cloud and through Firebase as well. So these two options are available. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to configure a lot of other things in order to make the deployment possible.
Mhm.
But yeah, the feature is there. Yes. So I would,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
definitely recommend you to play around with it. Then we can maybe talk about it in the next
Yeah,
video.
yeah,
How was
yeah,
your idea?
that's a good idea. So maybe we can talk about Project IDX in more detail because I'm planning to look into that. Definitely, yes. Mhm.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, so they, since it's a web-based IDE and that it also has AI in it, I mean, they introduce a couple of features like, asking the editor itself to, do certain tasks for you. Let's say it says renaming all files in your directory or something like that. So you can just, do a text prompt and it will do it for you. Otherwise, I mean,
Again,
yeah,
just like with Gmail, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I hate Visual Studio Code compared to Eclipse because Eclipse, especially when you look at the Java features of Eclipse,
mhm,
the refactorings in Eclipse are just chef's kiss. Yeah, they are so good. And in Visual Studio Code, oh my God, forget it. If you want to rename something, it's
yeah,
just a catastrophe. And again, here it seems to me like, hey, we screwed up the whole refactoring stuff. We cannot reach the god developers that created Eclipse,
yeah.
so we put AI above it so we can circumvent that. uh, yeah,
And I
but yeah,
mean, this Project IDX workspace is actually based on, Visual Studio.
yeah, of course,
So
yeah, yeah.
it looks exactly like that and built on top of that.
Yeah, well, it
You
basically
have
the same
again,
base as
yeah,
the Theia, the new Eclipse IDE. Which, by the
yeah,
way, did you know that they released a Theia IDE?
no,
So obviously, it's now official that we can use Theia. Is it called Theia or Theia? I don't know. I guess it's
mhm,
Theia. Theia from Eclipse. And maybe the Eclipse developer gods have mercy with us and put in the cool refactoring features that they have in Eclipse and put it into the Theia IDE, which would be great because then we have a IDE that's based on the same base as Visual Studio Code and uses the same extension format and everything, but
mhm,
has the better quality of code that Eclipse IDE has. So that's one possibility. And of course, this Google IDE is based on the same technology, so they all train on the same yeah IDE base basically. Yeah.
mhm. Got it. I mean, so yeah. Now moving forward, so this they came up with new Flutter version, and this version has a lot of different or new stuff. I would say the one thing that I was most excited about was the WebAssembly. It's now
Right.
available in the stable version. So finally, Flutter is responding to people who had questions about it being a full blown web framework or not. People used
Mhm.
it, but they were like, still not sure that you can use Flutter Web for bigger or complex applications. But now, with the launch of WebAssembly, I think they are able to tackle all those questions.
Okay, so until now, WebAssembly was just an experimental feature, right?
Experiment available as a flag, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why WebAssembly was such a big deal for Flutter is because Dart is a garbage collecting language, and WebAssembly does not support garbage collection. So how did they solve it? Do you know that? Did
So I
they
mean, yeah,
allow for garbage collection somehow in WebAssembly?
yeah, they do. So the garbage collection is still happening, yes.
So WebAssembly can now also be used by languages that have garbage collection. That would mean
Right.
it could also be there could be a WebAssembly created with Java, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah,
Because
I mean,
one of the advantages of Rust was because they had WebAssembly support from the get-go because Rust does not have a garbage collector, so that
yeah.
limitation was not a thing for Rust.
I think that was one of the reasons why it took a lot of time for the Flutter team to come up with something that come up with a solution so it
Yeah,
works with WebAssembly seamlessly. Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean they launched WebAssembly. I think they've been talking about WebAssembly in the last two IOs, and now finally they've launched it. And they also mentioned this particular topic that like, I mean, it took us a lot of time, but we're finally here. You know, so I think it's gonna be great. From the demo that they've showed us, the performance have increased drastically,
Mhm. Okay, yeah,
and
that's
and
to
the
expect.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
reason why
But
we want WebAssembly.
yeah, yeah. It's very, very nice. Even the build size and everything is reduced drastically. So I think this is like a one big change in the newer Flutter version. And I
Okay,
haven't
so
tried it yet, but I'm going to try the Flutter Web with
yeah,
WebAssembly. So
yeah, 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 yeah. So would you now say what's your take? Would you use Flutter for web application development right now
I
if you
would.
had the
I
choice?
would.
You
I think
would?
so. I would. I've already tried making a couple of Flutter Web applications, and my
Yeah,
experience so far has been
yeah.
decent enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it works. But I had a discussion with another developer
Mhm.
lately, and who's also have been has been working with Flutter Web, and he
Mhm.
said, yeah, he would not use Flutter Web right now, especially in combination with gRPC. That was his
Yeah,
main problem.
gRPC no, yes, gRPC no, but with REST,
But
yes.
yeah, but then I looked at it and I thought, yeah, it's still in its early phases. It can be done, but is it the best for web applications? Probably not. So maybe the next version after that when everything is sorted
Definitely,
out, then
definitely.
it's a contender for, I don't know, React and Angular and
Yeah.
you
I
name
mean,
it.
yeah, definitely. It's not at all contender against React or Vue or even
Yeah,
Angular, I would say right
yeah,
now. But yeah, I think the next few versions will have that. The only positive thing here is that WebAssembly's integration is going to improve Flutter Web drastically. And right now, it's suitable for not so complex applications. Let's say if you have like a small scale application, then I think yeah, Flutter Web could be the right choice. You don't
definitely.
really have
Yeah,
to complicate your tech stack.
yeah. The main advantage, of course, is that you have one source for all
Yes,
platforms. So you have one source for web, for desktop, and for mobile. Yeah.
true.
So that's an advantage that no other framework offers you. I guess there is this alternative framework from Kotlin. They have a
Yes, yes.
multi-platform
I
thing
forgot the
running.
name. I forgot the name, but yeah, they do have something like that. Yes.
Yeah, so that might be an alternative to Flutter.
Yeah,
So
but their audience base is pretty low, so I don't think it's even a competitor for Flutter yet.
yeah, that's the ecosystem is a little bit smaller, I would assume. But on the other hand, we're talking about Google here. Yeah, I mean, Google
Yeah,
is known for abandoning projects. So what happens if
true.
Google says, this Flutter stuff, we don't need it anymore?
Yeah. I
There
mean,
were concerns that
it's
there were some
difficult.
layoffs at Google lately, and there were some
Yeah.
concerns that they would also lay off some people from the Flutter team, but they did not. So that's a
Mhm.
good sign. But it might
I mean, I
change.
would say it would be difficult even for Google to abandon the Flutter project because right now, because for example, all their previous projects that they did abandon were not really used by businesses in general, because right now Flutter is being used by a lot of big businesses, let's say Alibaba, BMW, and all these big companies. They're using Flutter as their core technology to build their apps. And if Google abandons this project, then it's going to impact all those customers, big customers. And I think that would be difficult for even Google to pull off.
Yeah,
You
and,
know,
and and they could do it anyways because it's open source anyway. So there would be some people that would take over the Flutter development if Google says, I don't
definitely,
know.
yeah, yeah. So it will continue in a way. Maybe Google
Yeah,
won't continuously contribute, but others will. Yes.
yeah. So maybe the Eclipse Foundation takes over Flutter. I don't know. Something
Yeah,
like that would happen.
something like that. Yeah, that'd be great actually. So, but yeah, I mean, good thing Flutter is evolving and they have improved, Flutter quite a lot. If you compare with previous versions. So now moving forward, the WebAssembly part was fantastic to know about, and I'm gonna try it, and then we maybe can talk about how was the performance and all that. But yeah, then they brought in AI. So in order to do that, they launched a plugin or SDK. Basically you can have in your Flutter app, and you can call Gemini API directly. So you can basically make AI based apps now with Flutter, and you can interact with Gemini. You just have to get an API key, you know, provide text prompt inputs, and then
Yeah,
the AI will
sure.
give you some output. Yes,
Yeah,
so
but
you can make AI based.
that's not very Flutter specific. It's just a library that they have. So it's an API.
But yeah, the good thing is it's available on Flutter now, so you can use it. So they've
Yeah, wouldn't it be
made it
available on
available for
Flutter
some other.
anyways? I mean, it's a REST service, I assume, or maybe even a gRPC service. You could do it in Dart
Yeah, so there is a
already.
REST client as well that
Uh,
they've launched, so you can just call the API directly, or there is like inbuilt Flutter SDK, not SDK, basically this plugin as well that you don't have to do API calling, so just use the client and it will directly
yeah,
call
so they built a wrapper around the
the
REST
wrapper.
API
So
basically.
that makes it easy. But the weird part is actually try to play with it a bit. So when you go to Flutter Google Gemini website or this page, it tells you that please do not use this client directly to call Gemini. Rather use your backend. Because then you would be end up putting your keys or all those confidential information
Yeah,
within your source code.
that's good advice here because
Yeah.
uh, if you because especially since Flutter is mostly a framework for mobile, and if
Yeah.
you store API keys in mobile apps, that's not a good idea.
Yeah. So there, specifically if you're doing prototyping and all that, then please use this client. Otherwise, use our web services and connect it through your backend.
So yeah, basically it's then pointless because you need to have
Yeah,
an
that's what I thought. I mean,
API.
it's pointless. Yeah, really.
Well, because then you would implement the AI stuff on the back end anyways, and
Yeah,
so why do I need a AI Flutter library when I cannot use it?
yeah,
So it's just a gimmick. I mean, just to have something AI related. Probably, I guess the pitch meeting was like this. So hey, we have the Google I/O Flutter team. What's your take? Yeah, we talk about WebAssembly. We talk about that cool new widget and stuff like that. And then the Google bosses came in and hey, wait a minute, you have to do something with AI. Um, oh yeah, well, okay, yeah, we have this AI wrapper around the app. Yeah, well, that's good enough.
yeah. True. I mean, that's what I thought because it seemed quite useless to me. Because like if I'm somebody who's making an AI based app, then why would I waste my time playing around with a client that which I'm not going to use eventually?
Yeah,
So I
right.
would rather use my backend and then save my time.
No.
Um, so
So
yeah,
yeah.
that was useless. But yeah, good to know that you can somehow integrate AI with your Flutter apps.
Okay,
Uh,
so anything Flutter specific that was interesting. So I read here that some Dart improvements also. What were
mhm.
Dart macros? Did they talk
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, so they did launch Dart macros, but I'm not so. I mean, the use case of it was, a bit unclear to me personally.
Yeah, it's similar to the annotations in Java.
Yeah.
So I guess Dart did not have annotations until now. Then that's probably
Mm,
the new thing. So now you can annotate just like you can in Java, which is a good thing because if you are familiar with the Spring framework where annotation is everywhere. So yeah, maybe then you just say, hey, I have this Dart class, and I just say, okay, that's a gRPC service just like it's done in Spring Framework or in Quarkus. And you just
yeah,
say, okay,
yeah,
that's a gRPC service, and then in the background everything is done, so you don't have to code it by hand anymore. So that's
yeah.
maybe
So I think you can see my screen, right? Right now.
no, I cannot. You have stopped your sharing.
Really? Oh my God.
Yes,
When did I do that?
I don't know.
Alrighty. Let me try again. Can you see it? Is it visible?
Okay, yeah, now I can see it again.
Okay. Yeah, so I think what we are seeing it's exactly like this. So there are these annotations available now out of the box with Dart. So I mean, previously there were annotations, but then you have to import some kind of a library to use those annotations. So now
Really?
it's like inbuilt. So
Yeah.
in the example, they're shown something called JSON codable or something like that. That annotation you provide, and then you get boom something to use.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can remember. I never saw any annotations in Dart. No.
Hmm. No, not there is.
Well,
So yeah, so that was I think pretty much it. There were like some other things as well, but those were not really groundbreaking or anything like that. Just some performance improvements. Some
yeah,
they also
yeah.
incorporated AI within the
So,
development and
something
all that.
something about the rendering engine. They now support Vulkan, so they no longer need OpenGL, so they can render directly in Vulkan. That's what I read, which is
Hmm.
also an improvement when it comes to performance and stuff like that. So yeah, the rendering engine has been replaced. Before it was what was the name of this rendering engine?
I think
So now the new
Impeller is the
one
new one.
is
Impeller is the new one.
Impeller. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the new one,
Kia was
and the old one
Kia. I think.
Skia, right? Skia,
Yeah,
which is basically the rendering engine that LibreOffice uses.
yeah,
So they replaced that now with Impeller, and that's
yeah,
now final and official and stable because it was experimental as well, I guess,
yeah.
and now it's official.
I
So
think
we
yeah.
have
I mean,
official WebAssembly support, official Impeller support, and that's basically the news from the Flutter side. The AI stuff, nice, but who cares?
yeah,
And yeah, I'm still waiting on the reaction or the review video from Philip Racek because he also has always a little bit more insights. and he probably already does some live coding, and that's what's new, and this is how it looks at. So I'm looking forward to see one of his videos, because I mentioned it before. Philip Rajat did one video about the Google I/O, but it was mainly about he being an attendee and not a speaker anymore.
Yep.
So yeah, interesting. So I liked it. It showed me, okay, Google is still committed to Flutter,
Committed
and
to
they
Flutter,
keep
yes, yes.
working and improving on it.
Yep.
Any additional thoughts on Flutter from your side?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Flutter. I mean, always have been. I mean, it's one of those technologies that have changed how we make apps,
Yeah,
in a way. So
yeah,
significantly, it has changed it. So I think it's good to see that Flutter, like you said, is committed to keeping it going. So yeah, it's nice, and hopefully next year or next version will even be better.
yeah. And I hope they don't take too much time. They can release new versions between
Yeah.
IOs as well.
Yes.
I would not mind that.
Yes, I think it should not be IO dependent at all, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for the presentation of this new Flutter stuff on Google I/O. Was very interesting, and I'm excited to try out the new stuff. Really, I am. Especially the IDX. I have
Yep.
already scheduled something for me personally to check that out.
Yep.
And yeah, that's something we could talk about in one of our next episodes. We take a deep dive into Project IDX. That sounds like a good idea. Maybe we can create a WebAssembly Flutter app using this Project IDX,
We can do that. We can do that. Definitely, it's a
just
good
as a
idea.
demo, just the the demo
That it
application.
actually
Just
works. Yep.
yeah. So well, that might be an interesting
Okay.
thing to
Okay.
do. So okay, yeah. Well, I guess that's it then for this episode.
Yep.
Well, we learned a lot
For
about
more
Flutter.
tech stuff, Flutter stuff, or anything, you can come to our channel
Of course,
or
you can.
not. You can.
And if you are more into entertainment and reviews, you're not wrong here either.
Yeah.
So,
We
yeah.
just
So, see you in the next one.
in the
Bye.
next one. Bye.